All right, guys. So our next topic here is going to keep us in the world of the MCU, but we're going to shoot over to a new entry in some ways to the MCU. Well, I guess it is, no matter what way you look at it, it's a new entry in the MCU, but one that's been filled with a lot of question marks around, and that's Deadpool. Like, what is Marvel going to be doing with Deadpool now that they, Disney acquired Fox and all that stuff? A lot of question marks were there in regards to, is Deadpool even going to continue? Is Deadpool going to be like still rated R, but in a different kind of separate universe from the MCU and everything? Or are they going to make him PG-13 so that he can commingle within the MCU? No confirmation really had been given on it until now, in some way, with a bit of caveat. Because Kevin Feige had done an interview where he did mention that it will be rated R, and we're working on a script now. Ryan Reynolds is overseeing a script right now. It will not be filming this year. Ryan is very busy, very successful actor. We've got a number of things we've already announced that we now have to make, but it's exciting for it to have begun. Again, a very different type of character in the MCU, and Ryan is a force of nature, which is just awesome to see him bring that character to life. So, I don't know. This is in some ways, to play devil's advocate like John just was a moment ago, this isn't a 100% confirmation, because he could have just been, while he's talking, right? He could have just said, you know, you just say things sometimes and you don't really totally mean the thing you say. Like, he could have just said in passing that, a different type of character in MCU, and like, maybe he just meant Marvel, like, who knows? Who knows? But I'm gonna go on the assumption that this does mean 100% that it's gonna be rated R Deadpool in the MCU. That's what I'm gonna go with for now until we get confirmation otherwise. I feel like since this article's gone out and the internet kind of exploded about it for a little bit, that if it was not the case, they probably would have made an addendum. Kevin Feige would have been like, "Oh, I misspoke on that." So I'm going to assume that this totally means that it is for sure, and he wasn't just kind of misspeaking in some ways like that. But anyways, the main thing with this, in my opinion, is I'm happy to hear it. I don't know about you guys, but I've said from day one, when the whole Fox merger happened with Disney and everything, that you have to keep Deadpool rated R, like
Oh, yeah.
100%. There's no going back at this point. I don't think anyone would be happy with it. It was one of the most successful R-rated franchises ever, as far as box office and even critical responses and everything. So for them to have to go back and like PG-13ify him, I don't think anybody would really be cool with that. Especially, I don't even think Ryan Reynolds would be cool with
Oh,
that to begin
absolutely
with.
not.
And I think what ended up happening here is like, because Bob Iger himself had said like they didn't know what they were going to do with Deadpool, because like he did confirm they were going to do it, but everyone was kind of under the assumption it would be under like the Fox umbrella and they would carry it on like separately in a separate universe. Because Bob Iger is mainly concerned about not confusing his audience, right? He doesn't want little Timmy to see Deadpool in an Avengers movie and then want to go watch a Deadpool movie afterward because they see the trailer for it, and the trailer is obviously PG-13, so he can see the trailer, and then little Timmy asks his mom to go see that movie because he was just in the Avengers movie,
Well,
and
Timmy's
then
gonna have a lot of questions
I
after
know.
watching that.
I don't think Timmy's mom's gonna be really on board with him learning about like being pegged on National Women's Day and things like that. You know what I mean? So
Exactly.
that was Bob Iger's biggest concern, is like, which it makes sense. Now I always made the argument myself is that like there's like a small fraction of people out there who I think would actually be confused with it. And I mean, again, to play devil's advocate, there were stories about Timmy and his mom going in to see Deadpool and not realizing that it was what it was. And I remember there being like a couple articles about it, like someone took like 6-year-old to go see it. And it's like, okay, at some point, my thing with like that whole situation, and I get Bob Iger's concern and everything, but at some point the fault lies with the person and not with the company. Like,
Yeah,
the company
sure.
does everything that, like, not to defend big business or anything either, like, God, not what I'm getting at here. But if everyone is being kosher on their end, they put out all their marketing material, they say rated R, not suitable for children, then they're doing their job. You know what I mean? So when Timmy and his mom go to see it, at that point, the fault lies on them if they're you know what I mean, if they're unhappy with it. So,
Yeah.
and I feel like that's such a small fraction of people out there that again, why would the company want to like lose out on potential income by having Deadpool continue to be Deadpool, the big money R rating making giant that it was, and then have their cake and eat it too with throwing him into some MCU movies. You know what I mean? Because then it's gonna make Deadpool more popular. It's gonna make the MCU more popular. Everyone's gonna win, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like most people, as far as the audience goes, isn't stupid, and they understand that one's rated R, one's not. You know, that's just I don't know. So I always thought from day one they should have kept making Deadpool rated R, and then when he wants to, or when they make an Avengers movie or they make a Spider-Man movie, they can have Ryan Reynolds pop up into it and it'd be fine. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, everyone understands what's going on. And, I don't know. What do you guys think before I keep rambling on? Like, that's pretty much where I'm at with it. I'm glad they're doing it.
Should always be rated R. Like, you can't go back on that. That's what I think makes the movies so fun and entertaining and all that. And I'm
100%.
glad to hear that they're not straying away from, you know, the R rating.
I think even if they wanted to, how long could you be in a room with Ryan Reynolds and not give him what he wants?
No, yeah.
He's too handsome. He's too charming. He's too funny. Like, he's just in there, probably like sitting there in a room with Kevin Feige
Just
and
smiling at him.
Yeah, just how could you couldn't say no? Like, and he's got enough to back it up too. Like, it's just like, but look how much money we made and all this stuff and blah blah blah. Like, you can't, and no one wants to.
So
I'll say this, not to interrupt. Nobody wants to see Deadpool without Ryan Reynolds.
God,
it's not going to happen. Like, nobody wants to see it.
He is Deadpool.
That's what I'm saying. Like, nobody wants to see it. So go on. John.
I think Disney's bigger concern is the brand, the idea of brand. You know, marketing and stuff is a very, it's such a huge part of any public business's persona these days, and the Disney brand carries with it. I mean, we talked about this when we talked about Disney Plus before, and how they have such a family-friendly image, even though they release some movies that are, you know, the MCU movies, which are PG-13, and they have other movies in other areas, the Star Wars films that are PG-13 and stuff. So even though they skew some of their content older, they still are considered family-friendly. And so the PR pushback from having a movie in their arena that is clearly not family friendly, that's intended just for kids, and the confusion, I don't even know that it's confusion. I think it's really just the association that comes along with a movie like that, is probably what they were more scared of than anything else. Now, that being said, I'm very curious if what's going to happen is if we're going to see sort of a I can't remember what they called it, but a remake of the Deadpool movies, like they did with Fred Savage for Deadpool 2, where they tone down everything and they get it into that PG-13 wheelhouse. So you're going to have your main Deadpool 3 release, or whatever they end up calling it. That's going to be your full R. They're not going to, you know, handcuff Ryan Reynolds. They're going to let him go out with all out with the comedy and the violence. But then you're going to have a version of it come out that's PG-13. And so when little Timmy wants to see Deadpool and his parents are like, I can't have him see an R, but a PG-13 is just fine, they're going to be able to show him the PG-13 version, and try and approach it some way like that, just so that they can basically have their cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
That's kind of my only guess as to how they're going to approach it. Or they're just going to, you know, rely on, like you said, they're going to rely on people to be smart enough to not take little Timmy to the rated R movie. And unfortunately, they're going to have to deal with some blowback, because while it may be a small percentage of the population, those people are still out there who are going to go see it, and they're going to get online, and they're going to whine and moan and complain and cry about Timmy seeing something about somebody being pegged on National Women's Day. And Timmy doesn't have a first clue what that is. Timmy doesn't. I mean, that joke doesn't even matter if Timmy hears that joke. It doesn't mean anything to me.
That's another thing too. Like, most of those jokes and like the vulgar material right over these
so
kids'
far
heads. They
above.
don't
Exactly.
care. Like, in
Yeah.
all
The kids, the
honesty,
kid, the kids probably tune out of all that dialogue stuff anyway. They're just
Yeah.
you're just getting those kids from one action scene to the next. They're
Mhm.
not taking that in, and now the F bombs and the S bombs and all those. Yeah, that might eventually seep into, especially when the kid hears Deadpool say it and the entire theater cracks up. The kid's gonna go,
Yeah.
"Oh, that word's funny. All right, yeah, we're doing that next time."
Yeah.
So that I can see, but a lot, like you're talking, the really crude humor and stuff that people get so worked up about. It's like kids don't even know what that means. They won't have the first clue, and they probably, it goes in one ear and out the other.
Mhm. Yeah, they
Yeah,
probably
that's true.
it's not the kind of thing that they're gonna be like, "Hey, mom, what's National Women's Day? What's getting pe—" Like, they
Yeah,
don't
what is
care.
pegging?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
happens for 2 seconds, and then they see Deadpool cutting heads off, and then
Like,
they're back to
oh,
that.
Like, that was so cool.
Yeah,
Hey,
that's
mom,
what they
remember
want.
when Deadpool?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, and that's what it is. So, yeah, I don't see any I could totally see them doing that, with the whole, like, making the PG-13 version just to put it on Disney Plus, 'cause, like, I imagine these rated R Deadpool movies are gonna come out under the Fox banner, like, still, because 'cause they're not gonna put the Disney logo on it
Disney
or
is
anything.
family friendly. Like, that's what they're about.
Yeah, so I still imagine they'll utilize their 20th century banner for Deadpool, and then put it on Hulu when the time comes for the rated R one. Then if they so choose to do the PG-13 version for it, then they could. It just kind of depends on how much work it would be. Because they could always just do the real generic bleep every cuss word and cut out all the blood
Sure.
scenes and just throw it on Disney Plus and just say, "Here you go." Um,
Yeah.
I don't know if they would, because I mean, you got to think when Deadpool crosses over, he won't be cussing or anything, and he won't be cutting heads off, and they'll be like, that's all going to be in the rated R stuff.
Yeah.
But his existence in the MCU doesn't mean like every time they see him, like the little Timmy, it's going to be on National Women's Day. Like,
Yeah,
if he
yeah.
pops up in a Spider-Man movie, he'll be PG-13. Like he might be a
Just
little
as he
bit
is with the
vulgar, but
comics. I
yeah.
mean, they've been walking that line in the comics since the character was created. There are comics that are intended for mature audiences that he appears in, but then there's also, the Avengers comic that he pops up in. He's not dropping his F bombs in the Avengers comics.
Yeah. Plus, like,
So it's
with
the
those
same
ones, he
deal.
still can, and like in those ones for comedic relief,
Yeah.
they could just bleep them out,
Yeah.
like have
Plus-
them because if you do it right, it's funny. Like,
He offers that whole fourth wall breaking,
yeah,
stuff that you can do with him. So it would be really interesting to see how they would utilize him in an Avengers style movie.
yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be fun. Because you gotta see him with Spider-Man. I think that's probably like number one. He's had a lot of good interactions with Spider-Man in the comics, so that'd be fun. I don't know. It'd be cool. I don't think it's needed, but I imagine though. I guess the last thing I'm really at about it is they must have. I think this might have something to do with their future plans for X-Men more than anything. To
That's
where
possible,
Kevin Feige
yeah.
was like, we should probably have Deadpool be able to come in here because we're gonna do X-Men eventually, and he's already a pretty popular X-Men character to the public, so we could keep him around. And then he can just cross over into that. Because I could totally see them once they start making the X-Men movies. He could be a regular character in there. You never know. Like, so who knows though? We'll just have to see. Because Deadpool really didn't do a whole ton of stuff with like the Avengers and stuff like that. He did a lot of stuff with Spider-Man. He pops up in the big ones, like the big crossover stuff. But I mean, he's an X-Men character when it comes down to it. So
Yeah.
I think it might have something to do with that coming up. So we'll just have to wait and see. But guys, what do you think about that? Are you happy with Deadpool being rated R? Because I think most people, I think it's safe to say that they're happy that Deadpool is going to continue on, as Ryan Reynolds has intended him to continue on. Because let's face it, that franchise, it's not where it is today without Ryan Reynolds. All right, and like I said before, I don't think anybody would be cool with them like recasting Deadpool and making PG-13 movies just so they could put him in the MCU. Like, nobody wants to see that. I don't want to see it. I can't speak for everybody, but I don't want to see that. So whatever you guys think, let us know down in the comment section below.